told y'all it wasn't going to be that long before you saw me again for this series. So hello and welcome. This video is going to be a review of Blackflame, the third book in the Cradle series by Wight. If you haven't seen my previous video about Soulsmith, I will link that up above. And then at the end of this video, I will have Unsouled, which is the first book in the Cradle series. So you have an opportunity to see both of them. This book opens where Soulsmith left off, and unlike in Soulsmith, where Linden was just a free helper, a peon to Fisher Geisha, which the Fishers are one of the 5 faction alliance. He's actually a disciple now, thanks to the fact that Ethan Aurelius is an underlord, and the Aurelius clan has said, "This is mine, goodbye." And so Fisher Geisha is now actually teaching Linden how to soulsmith, like the principles of soulsmithing. And which is kind of great. He's so happy and it's so nice, especially since now he is an iron. So I highly recommend you, if you have not read Soulsmith, which is the second book in the series, just for Linden becoming an iron, it is worth reading that book or listening to the book, however you want to consume this book. I, just like with the first two, listened to this on Audible, and that at the end of the, well, towards the end of the second book, very nice. But it does show how much resolve Linden has to trying to save Sacred Valley from the Dread Beast, which is what you learn in the first one when he has the vision with Serial. Which, speaking of Serial, this book is the first time you really kind of like get more into the Abaddon. So Serial in the first book came down and saved Linden, resurrected him because she was correcting a temporal spatial anomaly. Again, I know this is supposed to be fantasy, but it has a little sci-fi in it. So she's correcting a spatial anomaly, and then she decides, you know, go ahead and pull Linden out and keep his memories. So that way he knows that the world is going to end in 30 years. And so that is what he's working so fervently on improving for, is to stop that. And you learn a little bit more about the Abaddon. You also, prior to the first 2 books, you kept hearing about Azrael and like the Abaddon wanted Azrael to come back. But in this book, you really understand why Azrael is so important to the Abaddon and why he needs to come back. You understand where his place is in the Judges and why he is so important. And Serial is in charge of now finding him. So learning more about how this works. And by the way, I talked about in my first review about the info dumping. The info dumping is actually Serial's presence. So there's Serial, which is the being that is Serial, and then she has like a presence, which kind of like breaks down information, because as an Abaddon, they're in charge of like hundreds and thousands of iterations. So the presence just gives like background, like, oh, do you remember this thing? Or, oh, this is how this works. That's what it is. So whenever there's info dumping, you're basically just listening to Serial's presence info dump on you about information about the world. So that's still a device that Wight uses, and I'm guessing he's going to use it throughout this series. And it is a really great way to info dump. You kind of get used to it. I'm used to it now in the third book, and it is a good way to info dump and continue to build the world. Going back to Linden, Linden is now learning how to soulsmith, and Fisher Geisha is treating him like an actual soulsmith, like disciple, so it's great. Ethan also ends up building this Aurelius training circle, which is the giant barn with a bunch of training dummies for Linden and Yeren to train in, and which is super fun between the two of them. I'm enjoying so much the development of Linden and Yeren's relationship, how it's becoming a partnership, how they're like partners in arms. And it's just very cool, and we'll get back to that in a second. But Ethan builds, like in a day, this barn with this training circle in it to help both Yaren and Linden advance. And mostly it's to try to get Linden used to his body because of the trial he went through to get his iron body. Like, his iron body is just so strong. It's like stronger than his will to like make it work properly, which is amusing. And then Yaren, of course, is struggling with her gold sign because it's the remnant of her master, and so she's not wanting to accept it into herself because she's worried about losing her master. And so she's having to work with the gold sign without both her unwelcome guest and also dissolving the remnant of her master. And it's really cool to learn both more about both pieces, like more about her master and more about what this unwelcome guest is in this book. So, like, it's just more. It's more, and it's just getting better. So much better. So, in Soulsmith, you got introduced to Jai Long, and at the end of Soulsmith, you have Jai Long and Linden are now rivals, and they're rivals that are going to be locked in a very vicious battle in a year. So Linden has to raise himself up to be able to match Jai Long in battle. And if you remember in Soulsmith, Jai Long is a gold. Linden, at the end of Soulsmith, is an iron. So he has to raise himself up to jade, and then from jade he has to raise himself up to gold. So in order to help facilitate that, Ethan decides to bundle everyone up and go to Serpent's Grave, which is the former capital of the Blackflame Empire, which is where they're currently, which is the empire that they are in. They are just on the outreaches of, remember, Sacred Valley is at the very outskirts of the Blackflame Empire, like at the like tippy boundary line. And it is one of the former capitals of Blackflame Empire. You know, it moves around just like everything else in the world does. But they're all headed to Serpent's Grave, and they take this this Aurelius circle, training circle, with them on a even larger cloud. So there was a cloud transportation, I forget that it's something cloud, but apparently there are larger ones, and this is a very large one, so it can hold both like a regular guest house and then also this giant training barn as well. So they work through that, and they go to Serpent's Grave. And it's just, once they get to Serpent's Graves, again, Ethan is trying to bridge the gap between Jai Long and Linden, and so Ethan suggests to Linden that he has 2 cores. Just keep 1 core pure Madra. That's cool, because that's super helpful. But the second core should be devoted to some kind of path. And so he offers Linden a bunch of different paths to choose from, and they end up settling on Blackflame. And because Linden settles on Blackflame, which is the name of the book, they go and they meet Orthos, which is the last practitioner of Blackflame, and they make a pact with Orthos, and because of the pact Linden makes with Orthos, he is elevated to Jade because Orthos is so powerful. I'm not going to talk more about Orthos because I think that's a really cool part of the book, so you're just gonna have to read it for yourself if you want that. And then once he makes the pact with Orthos and he is elevated to Jade, Ethan's like, oh, well, you're Blackflame now, so here is the Blackflame Trials. This is one of the greatest training tools of the Empire that's super expensive, and also, like, you know, we maintain this as the Aurelius family, so, you know, we get to use it. We're gonna unlock it, and you and Yaren enjoy. So there are 3 trials in this Blackflame trial thing. There are 3 different parts of this Blackflame trial, and it's just amazing. And I said before, like, the Soulsmith definitely made me addicted to this series. This this just brings me so much joy, because you learn so much more about Ethan, you learn so much more about Yaren, you learn so much more about her history, you learn more about the other players that helped elevate Linden, like I said earlier about the Abaddon and Serial. And you have new characters like with Orthos, and then Little Blue, who I've never mentioned, but one of the things that they took away in Unsold was a Sylvan Riverseed. And she played a little bit of a role in Soulsmith, but like in this book, she's her own little person, and it's just amazing. It's just amazing, this world that Wight has built, and it's so interesting how something that felt a little jarring at the beginning with Soulsmith, when listening to Serial's presence do the info dump with the iterations and like report requested, report denied. It's so interesting how used to that type of info dumping and world building you get, and then how much it becomes a part of how the story's being told as you learn more about the Abaddon. It's very good. Again, Treeborn, man, dude is doing a good job. If only Yaren could keep her accent throughout the entirety of her speaking parts. I don't know why that one is so hard. It continues to be an issue. I don't think it's ever going to stop being an issue, but the rest of the performance is super good. I very much enjoy his voice. I very much enjoy his inflections. I very much enjoy the amount of effort he puts into all the different voices of all the different characters in the story. And man... I've already started the 4th book, The Skysworn, because this book ended on like a heart clutcher. This book ended on such a heart clutcher that, like, the first one I was like, okay, I waited a little bit, like a day, and then started on the second one, and then the second one I waited a little bit to start on this third one. But man, this one, it was like, no, I can't get on that. This is too good. So again, another big recommend for me. Again, this is available on Amazon, I think for $15 if you want the paperback, and it's available on Kindle Unlimited for free if you have Kindle Unlimited. I think it's like 99 cents if you want to pay for it on Kindle. I don't know how Kindle works. And then on Audible, it's a little bit more expensive if you don't have an Audible subscription, but if you are a member of Audible, you can possibly get it for free with your credit. Well, it's technically not free then, is it? But okay, but thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'm very impressed, and listening to these books is making me, one, I'm now definitely going to have to buy all of these books in hardcovers. I know that they're available, the first 3 are available now for pre-order, so hopefully the other ones will come available too, but I definitely might have to do the spendy spend for that. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys probably really quickly for Skysworn review. Until then, bye!